Nightwing makes the content for our 30-year-old inner children. I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but I'll take it.
I don't know.
I think he means inner child.
But even then, your inner child is a 30-year-old?
That's true. That's a pretty old child. I think what he meant was I make content for 30-year-olds with inner children inside them. And again, I don't know if that's really a compliment, but hey.
It's basically you.
I am who I am and I don't care. I mean, I like me.
I like you too.
Thanks. Shout out to Welty, by the way. Salty boys all day. Yo, what's good guys? This is Chris from WearTesters.com. Welcome to the official WearTesters channel, the only channel on YouTube where you come for the review and stay for the conversation. So today we are taking a look at these guys right here. This is a shoe that I am extremely happy has been brought back. This is not an original like model or anything, but the line itself is an original line from Under Armour. It's probably one of, besides the original clutch fit, the last great line of basketball shoes from Under Armour basketball, other than a few of the Under Armour Currys, the Curry 1, 2, and I think the 6 is pretty much up there, despite some durability issues with the outsole, I'm just saying. So this guy right here is the Under Armour Anatomix Low, also known as the Anatomix Spawn Low. The Spawn, or the Anatomix Spawn, was an original line, like I was saying, from Under Armour basketball. It was a line that was meant to basically anatomically map the foot and then mimic that in gameplay with an actual shoe. So a lot of times when I talk about in a review that you kind of feel disconnected from the shoe, or the foot and the shoe feel one-to-one, the one-to-one aspect of things is what this model or line was always going for, which is something that you actually want when you're playing basketball. Because again, that's something that I've said quite often. You're not born with sneakers on, it's unnatural. So you want to get that natural feeling, that natural mobility, natural stability, all of that kind of stuff. You want those things to either be in the shoe already or enhance those aspects. And that's what, again, this line is supposed to do. The original did it really well in most aspects, with the one exception of sometimes some people would feel a little bit of tippiness in the forefoot because they were very narrow shoes. This guy right here, they've kind of fixed that because they've widened the base out. They've learned over the past, what, 10 some odd years of them making footwear, which is great. So you could definitely see the transition and the evolution of the design team, the design language, and they still kind of like stick within that same anatomical theme that these guys are going for. So first things first, the outsole is interesting, and interesting in a good way. It's got multi-directional coverage in the form of a lot of wavy lines and all that stuff, almost like circles, which is cool. The original model, there was a couple of them. There was the Anatomix Spawn, and I believe the Spawn 2. I can't remember if there was a third one. I'm pretty sure there wasn't, but they were almost identical to one another. And those guys actually used traction that was comprised of herringbone. These guys right here, again, they kind of stray away from that. In a sense, it reminds me a lot of, and I hate to do this, but it reminds me a lot of the Kobe 9 traction pattern itself. That was kind of like a pressure mapped foot. This guy looks and feels just like that. Not only does the rubber feel very tacky, I just have that kind of like feeling that this is going to perform very similarly. Now Micro G is back, and while they've been using the Micro G formula just tweaked a little bit, this is the kind that like I remember when Under Armour was first introducing Micro G, their branding for the foam. They had said that if you see the little dots on the midsole, that's Micro G, and then they just kind of like stopped doing that for some reason. These guys right here, it's a nice little throwback. The dots are back. I think it's awesome. A lot of people probably wouldn't even pay attention to that, but I think it's dope. This also feels like Micro G. It doesn't feel like the too mushy Micro G, but it feels like that just right Micro G. They feel awesome on foot. I know that they look chunky and clunky, but you actually sit way in this midsole, like right to about just below this little design line. Then you have that little drop that goes into the forefoot area where the rubber is actually kind of like encased over the lateral end for support, where you would have an outrigger. Now these guys don't have a traditional outrigger. Instead they do widen the base, which I think is awesome. And then because they have this little piece right there, we've seen this on other shoes, including Nikes, and it works great. What I really like though is the lacing structure. I love this stupid thing, dude. Like everybody thinks I'm crazy because I'm like, that's the piece right there. That's the piece. And I don't know why people don't believe me, but I feel like forefoot lockdown is like, that's it. This is essentially a forefoot strap without a strap. You can tighten that bad boy up right there, and you can get that feeling that you want in the forefoot and that security in the forefoot to make your moves, whatever that might be. So if you're like me and you're cutting and curling, constantly moving, trying to get open so you can get a shot, that's important. If you're a shifty player, which is not like me, right? But you move just as much, just in a different way, but still on your forefoot, that's again going to be very important to make sure that you're not sliding around that shoe, because you want to be comfortable making those moves to get either open without the ball or open with the ball. Simple basketball. I know that a lot of people say you're trash, but hey, I know the game. And then again, another callback to the original Spawn series is the upper itself, not just with the materials used, but also these little overlays. They have these little thin skin fuse pieces, just like the originals. This is to give structured support where you need it without kind of like increasing any weight. And this stuff moves very well with the foot as well. It's not a stiff fuse, so I like that they use this stuff again. And on top of that, they use the mesh, but this mesh is different. The original ones, I remember talking about how it felt like, because it was so light, it was so airy, even though the fit was great, it felt like there was nothing above the top of my foot in this section, and for me it was a distraction. This guy right here, when I put them on, it feels like it fits right on top of your foot. They have this little kind of like almost foam piece inside of the material, and that's what you can feel on top of your foot. And to me, it's enough of a feeling to where I know that I'm wearing a sneaker and I like the way that that fits. So I feel like that's an upgrade. A lot of people probably won't even care, but I like it. Something that is interesting though, by the way, is that these are called the low. So I wonder if there's going to be a version that's mid or high, but we haven't seen one. And I haven't seen any catalog stuff, because I actually have a guy that works somewhere in UA that I'm not supposed to talk about, but he likes to send me things that I also don't talk about because I'm trustworthy. He sends me stuff, and I remember seeing that these were coming back like last year, and I was like, sick. But I was like, just kind of like wishful thinking, but I never saw a high top version. I only saw a low. So I just wonder if maybe this is the only one. I don't know. Which brings me to the build. They're low tops, clearly, but I think that this is awesome. I think that this is the best way to make a shoe. If it's not going to be a mid, it's got to be a low, as long as they fit good, as long as they're supporting you in the rear of the sneaker, which is the heel area, and keeping you on that footbed, because that is true ankle support or true support. There's no such thing as ankle support. That's what your ligaments are for. Now, as far as fit is concerned, these guys do fit true to size. Wide footers, whenever these hit stores, which I don't know actually when that's going to be. Wide footers, you guys are definitely going to want to try them on because of that little rubber outrigger piece that's on there and stuff. It's not going to touch your pinky toe, but it's that part right behind your pinky toe right here. And that's where it could like dig into some people if you got like an extremely wide forefoot. It's also very snug right here at the top of the foot. So if you do have like a high instep, or I think it's called like a high arch, that could bother some people as well. So again, if you're any of those types of people, definitely want to try them on just in case. But for me, true to size works perfectly. I cannot wait to play in these things. That's pretty much all I've got. Oh, also on the box, it says that the retail is $110. Talk about a steal. This, the Kyrie, the Dame, bring it, man. Like affordable performance shoes that actually perform. Like you don't got to spend $185, LeBron.
That's a great way to be competitive.
It is, especially when you're a brand that needs it. You know what I'm saying? Like they need that. They need the competitive pricing, because $130 for the Curry, great price. And then when your other shoes are well under that, I think what's that other one? The M tag, that's $100. This is $110. Honestly, I don't think the M tag should even be a thing. Like if we're being real, like that shoe shouldn't have even released. It should have been this and the Curry. Two solid performers. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for all the support. Let me know what you guys think about the return of the Anatomix Spawn. I'm super stoked to play in these things. Stay tuned for the upcoming performance review. Sound off below. Let us know your thoughts. So until next time, guys, have a good one.
I was just surprised at how sticky the shoe was on the floor and everything, and it's a clear rubber.
Yes, so rubber compounds, doesn't matter if it's clear or translucent, or that's the same thing. Clear / translucent or solid, like they could be great. Translucent rubber can be great.
But usually y'all don't like it.
Yes, because usually it sucks. And so what I was telling you when I was trying them on, and they had this, can you hear that?
That's some great ASMR.
Maybe. So that sticky feeling that you kind of like hear and all that stuff, that is going to be, or what I was saying is going to be great on clean floors. On dirty floors, it's going to be like you're playing with duct tape.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be a dust magnet. So it just depends. Hopefully, you know, you get the good traction and not the bad traction, but you never know. It's always a crapshoot. Could be one way, could be the other, could be split down the middle. A lot of people complain about traction, and it's one of those things that you'll never be able to fully, I mean, you can perfect it as good as you can, but like not everybody is going to have a great experience. Even with something, if you were to take what I consider like some of the greatest traction of all time, the Kobe 9's outsole, there are people that say, I slip all day in that shoe. To me, I think that's crazy, because all of my experiences on any floor that I'd have ever taken that shoe out on was always exceptional. However, what people don't consider when they are looking at a review or reading a review or whatever is that their floor generally is the culprit. And I'm not talking about cleanliness as far as like, because like I'll say like, oh, it's the upkeep or the maintenance on the floor. And I don't mean that in nobody's, dry mopping. What I mean by maintaining the floor is the finish, the finish or the varnish. That's what's really creating a lot of the stickiness and the friction between the outsole and the floor itself. So a lot of times when people are like, yo, like, I don't know what you're talking about, blah, 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 like the traction for me sucked, your review was wrong, or this, that, and the other. And I'm just like, look, man, like I would never discredit or discount your experience. Just be mindful of the floor that you're playing on. I've played on some floors. Like when I've gone and played with Jaron he plays at this one middle school, like regularly. I swear to you, it's the worst. It's like that one league that we had that was also at a middle school. Middle schools are the worst.
It's an awkward time.
I know, which is interesting because it's very true both for the school and the school, because they're doing everything in that.
Yes.
They're the dances, the fundraisers, the assembly rallies, PE, and they barely keep it up. A good floor will be refinished once every 1 to 2 years.
Okay.
So like the high school that we play at in Sunnyvale at Fremont, the main gym gets refinished once a year, which is insane. That means that school's got a budget. The small gym in the back, which we also play in, that floor was just refinished this past summer, and it was the very first time in like almost 40 years.
I believe it.
And the only reason why they refinished it is because a pipe broke in the bathroom and it flooded the floor, and so they had to strip away a bunch of the stuff. But yeah, so that's why that gym, I like playing in it even though nobody else does, because the floor is so bad that if my shoes like actually grip in there, like I'm like, okay, these are good.
That's solid.
Yeah, so it's not just the outsole. A lot of times it's the floor itself. Everybody will blame the reviewer, they'll blame the shoe or whatever, but the floor, man, everything starts there, and then it's up to this thing to like do what it can to like pick up any slack.